Welcome to Inner Landscapes, the podcast where we explore our inner worlds, modern life, ancient wisdom, creativity, healing, and running an alternative business.
Inner landscapes.
Welcome back to Inner Landscapes. This is episode 4. Today we're going to talk about creativity and what it means to us and take you on a little journey of creativity exploration in our life. So just to get us settled into the space, if you are currently at home and maybe you can sit down, or even if you're standing, you could do this. I want to invite you to do a little somatic exercise. So if you put your right palm out and put it under your left underarm, sort of like on your heart, and just hold it there so you can feel your heartbeat. And then put your left palm on your right arm and maybe just gently close your eyes and just stay here for a moment. Take a couple of regular breaths. They don't have to be super deep, whatever feels comfortable. And this is just to regulate your nervous system, bring it back into a state of equilibrium, rest and digest, that parasympathetic place. And it's almost to say, I am here now, I'm alive, I'm breathing. And the grip of your left hand doesn't have to be strong. It can just be light. So it's kind of like a mixture of a hug and a check-in with your living, beating body. Your heart beating and alive. I don't really want to come out.
I know, I feel the same way.
This is the magic of actually connecting with your body. I feel like hands on the body, we sometimes forget. I mean, we constantly touch ourselves. We forget about conscious connecting through touch with your own
Conscious,
body.
intentional touch.
Intentional, yeah. And present to the experience, right? Okay. To those listening, you can stay in this position and just lie down and listen to us. But we're going to come out and begin the episode.
That felt like sinking into a little cocoon before we began. I was so happy when you said I don't want to come out, because I was really like, no, me either. That was a lovely little space to start with.
I know, it's so interesting, that it takes a few seconds, a few moments to do this. And yet, my mind usually goes to, oh, it's not going to work. It's just going to be a couple of seconds. And then you do it and it's so powerful and it resets you. And I forget to resource myself with those on a regular basis. But then when I do them, I'm like, oh, of course. And this was so simple.
Simple and exactly like you said, so quick, isn't it? Yeah. So accessible whenever we need it, if we remember to think about it.
Yeah. I think one of my goals in life is to remind myself and others that there's simple ways to come back to yourself whenever I can. And I feel like with time, I can get better at this. That's why I'm continuously keeping the awareness of that.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much for starting us in this way, Martyna. That was lovely.
You're very welcome.
So before we dive into talking about creativity, let's have a think about how our inner landscape is feeling this week or today. And I think probably already just from that little bit of somatic settling, the landscape has possibly shifted immediately, which again, just to repeat how cool that is, that just a second of kind of intentional connection with yourself and it can really shift and move things. So for me right now, I think my inner landscape, obviously it's summer and it's warm, but my inner landscape after just having that connection to my heart space and that feeling of like a hug feels really warm, but not in necessarily a summer way, in a maybe even like a womb space or like an internal way, like a really kind of visceral, organic warmth. Me and Martina were talking before we started recording that I've had quite a few challenges over the last couple of weeks, and I feel that there's an easing. Again, coming back to this kind of like organic description, maybe it's something like muscles just releasing. You know, when you think about breathing in and out and on the exhale, just letting your body relax, it's almost like that feeling a little bit, which is super cool because I think in the days before now, my inner landscape has just been feeling like riding a really untamable horse that's trying to kick me off constantly.
I like that visual.
Yeah. And how about you
Very strong.
today and now after that practice?
Yeah, I think similar. I feel like I've just entered, even though it's outside this summer, I've just entered my inner spring of my cycle. And that means, there is an upsurge of energy. And it also means that if I rush it too much, there is a potential for, anxiety and I wouldn't, like panic that this is too much too soon. So I'm kind of sitting with that awareness, but also I feel like I'm moving. The visual that came to me, it's like a weird movement through sand, but it's in that soothing way. When you have the timer with the sand, that's how it feels. Like I'm kind of flowing with it. So it's not like heavy against the sand. I'm kind of moving with it. And that also like goes with the theme of what I'm pursuing right now, which is slowness and slowing down, because the past couple of months have been like quite intense for my nervous system. And so the inner landscape is like this sun and sand, and at the same time there's like this quiet undertone. Like I'm in the desert somewhere basically, but it's not the kind of desert when I'm really thirsty and lost.
Yeah, because there's something about sand as a texture and a temperature and an image and a symbol and everything that for me instantly made me think of quicksand when you said that, or like a kind of force acting against you. Really like that for you it's a realistic movement of time rather than an individual rushing. And the desert, but like not a thirsty suffering desert. Like I just feel like you just rewritten the symbol of sand in my head for me with how your inner landscape is this week.
Yeah. And you said like you were feeling like the space you were in was woomy. So I think that's kind of that's my mirror of that is the sand. Like I feel hugged by the sand. Well, this is creativity, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I love that when we recorded episode 1, I think I cheated and I thought about what my inner landscape felt like before we started. And as we've gone through, I don't think about it. Obviously, we're only on episode 4, but we talk about this a bit more than we are actually recording. And it's so nice to now just trust that thing of tapping into the actual right now answer. Yeah. And it's surprising and like really intriguing to just let yourself think in this very visceral, symbolic way.
Yeah, I think it's great. And again, it's like to anyone listening, I feel like it's an invitation to add words and visuals to feelings. And I don't think it's easy, but it's like a creative exercise as well, and kind of an exercise in more intuitive feeling and living.
Yeah. And
right?
Also, like you said, with the somatic thing, that moving into the parasympathetic and the more rest, I think it also is this. Because when we're stuck in our mind of trying to understand what am I feeling right now or what's going on for me, this is like the ego-led part, isn't it? Which is like analyzing, dissecting, controlling. Whereas this inner landscape part is much more gentle and open and expansive. For me, as somebody that loves to control and analyze, it's a really nice alternative to thinking about what's going on.
There with you, sister. Control and analyze.
And today we're thinking about all things creativity. So let's jump into our first question. What does creativity mean for you, Martyna?
So it means, to me, it links to freedom. and like not being afraid of just being myself with all my humanness and messiness and flaws and all. And it means curiosity and sort of like this hunger, this zest for life. And I think the person who has always been my inspiration and sort of like my like archetype of what it means to embody a creative life was my grandfather. And when I think about creativity now, everything that I do that has like a creative motivational undertone to it, I do it in his honor almost, or like to honor my relationship with him and to honor his life. So yeah, I didn't know I was going to say that, but it just came out.
And what is it? Yeah, what is it about him that is like your archetype of?
So he was, he was he was a survivor of the war, and when he was 16, he got captured by the Germans in Warsaw, where he lived, to help them rob the rich. And he was the only survivor of that pack. So he was actually known in Warsaw and like in the media as the last, they call him kind of the last robber. And what he did with that was that he turned that into storytelling, and he became a storyteller and a teacher. But the way, he was a Polish language and literature teacher. But the way he approached it was like very creatively, and just feel like the way he also he had so much war trauma. I mean, he lost his sisters in the war, his mother, she lost her mind. He came out of it like completely the opposite of what you would expect. I mean, he just turned all of his pain into this adventurous life, like the passion for people and connection. I feel like that's how his creativity manifested. And I think for me, apart from like the traditional creative pursuits, art and things like that, that's how I then began seeing creativity. So like being creative with your day-to-day life and how you spend your time and how you connect with people. By connecting with people, I mean how you treat people and those individual relationships. He was curious about everyone. He wanted to know about everyone, and he genuinely like remembered, and he encouraged, and that not only made him a great teacher, so then kids loved him, but he was a primary school teacher, and then he was a teacher trainer, so he was training teachers. But yeah, like it just seeped into all aspects of his life, and I think he encouraged my creativity and all the pursuits and all my passions, because he felt like there's just so much that we can do. It's almost like, I don't know whether he knew his motivation fully, but it's like being given that second chance at life, as a teenager, on a subconscious level, because no one talked about PTSD, or he never went to therapy. Like, he just therapized. If he was he climbed, well, not climbed, but like was trekking in the mountains, and a little bit of climbing, I guess, as well. So just like that zest for life, that's kind of what is always with me. I could talk about this for hours, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In a
Like,
nutshell.
what an amazing individual. That's so cool. And I've never heard this story of your family history before either. I can completely see why that is such an inspiration to you. And also I completely love that so we were thinking about this episode in terms of like a creative life and living creatively. But obviously we have said at the beginning today we're talking about creativity, which can have thoughts of art or crafts or, something very, very narrow and specific. But I think that your grandpa perfectly kind of embodies everything that we are aspiring towards in our lives, but also wanting to talk about in this episode, which is the curiosity, the exploration, the community, and the hope and the courage that comes with integrating that fully into all of the different aspects of your life.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. So tell me, what does creativity mean for you?
Well, I don't know anymore, because I think you've just rewritten everything in a second there. Yeah, I don't know. I think you've maybe just blown all of my thoughts out of the water. So
I love that.
creativity is something that I think came to me much later. Actually found out more in my 20s just how creative members of my family are. but I wasn't consciously aware of it past. So I feel like it wasn't something that had kind of lit a fire within me or had set an example like what you're talking about for your grandpa. But it's something that I've kind of discovered with age. And I really love that because I think it's creating all of these new kinds of relationships with my family members as I'm finding out these things that they do. And I find it really interesting as well that lots of them, at least to me, hadn't spoken about these things before. So I think maybe something that I want creativity to be is something that is more open and discussed and shared. I just think it's such an amazing force for connecting people and sharing your understanding of experiences and sharing love in lots of ways as well, because you're opening up some part of yourself and saying, here's a little piece of me in this particular thing. And I really, really like that. And I think I try to practice that more and more in my own life as well. But I definitely am in agreement with sort of this idea of living creatively and that it's about leading with curiosity and playfulness. It's evolving for me constantly because it's something that started as a very narrow thing of kind of creative writing and then poetry. So it was that traditional kind of, this is an art form that is creative and I'm exploring this. And then it's completely expanded into even kind of morning rituals. So every morning I stretch, not always on the weekends, but in the weekday mornings. And I have a few questions that I ask myself at the end. And one of the questions is becoming more and more silly and it makes me smile every time. So it was to start off with just, am I willing to step into my most expansive, true version of myself? And now every morning it becomes like this really elongated thing. So am I ready to step into my most curious, expansive, fun, playful, creative, expressive version of myself? And it's just getting longer and longer. And so I think it's this regular check-in, it's this approach to life, it's the curiosity, the openness and the playfulness, and something that I hope continues to grow and shapeshift constantly and be shared constantly as well.
I love that. And I love that question, like this piece about permission to be creative with that question as well. That's so cool.
And how would you've sort of touched on it already with your grandpa, but how would you describe your journey with your creativity? Is it something linear and simple and tidy? Is it wavy and zigzaggy? Are there rocks in the road?
Love that, the zigzaggy part. So just very briefly, it has been zigzaggy. My creativity was encouraged in the traditional sense, but also just in the living life in a creative way type of sense. But I guess there was also this pressure, which was internal mostly, I suppose. And when I was a kid and I was a child artist, and I like traveled to painting and drawing camps all over Europe and exhibited work as well and got awards and things like that. There was this pressure then to make something out of it. And I think that must have come from like a traditional societal thinking of, okay, if you're good at painting, then you should become an artist or you should go to arts academy. So for a long time, I felt that I needed to do that. And I then studied, like I did my A levels in history of art and I was going to go to an art school. And then last minute, I was like, actually, I don't want to, that's not what I want to do. I just want to enjoy doing this. There's other things that I want to do. And I wanted to write. So like my creativity was also creative writing. My granddad encouraged me to write books on his typewriter. And that's how I started writing.
Cool.
And yeah, like I also won competitions in writing. So, I was a very creative child and teenager. I was a dancer as well. And I trained to be a musical theatre dancer. So there was a lot, but I think I had to find my way with it in a sense that, okay, you don't have to then excel at it. You don't have to make it into a job. You can just be a creative being and go through life knowing that this is just a way you express yourself, or there's like those multiple ways in which you express yourself. And the biggest journey, part of this journey for me has been, I don't need external validation and approval. I can just be all those things. And it's okay if you just are those things for you.
And how did you kind of come to that realization? Because you also did all of these things, but you received quite a lot of external validation for them. What point did it become not about that and just about enjoyment?
I feel like it took just a lot of self-healing, and it took a lot of work in therapy and outside of therapy, working with perfectionism and being a high achiever and what that means and where that comes from, and just releasing all of these expectations, you know? So there wasn't like a moment, but I think for a long time, especially with drawing and painting, and I think that was linked to grandpa as well, because he really wanted to see my art go somewhere. But it wasn't in a pressurized way. It was just like, you're so good at it. You know, you should do it more. And then when I did photography, he also encouraged that. But he always was like, oh, but I really loved you painting. And I didn't perceive it as pressure from him. But maybe on a subconscious level, I was like, oh, yeah, I gave this up. And when I wasn't doing it to a level that was for exhibitions, I stopped doing it. And it took me like multiple attempts over my 20s and 30s to come back to just drawing for me. I did here and there, and you know, I went to like workshops and things like that, and then I joined this community called Sketchy Bitches.
Cool name.
And we met in person, and we were doing like micro portraits of each other. And that kind of started me. That was before the pandemic. And for a while, I was doing that. And then I've realized, okay, if I don't have a community, I don't do it. So how do I get myself to do it just for the sake of it? And it was then meeting you and you encouraging those creative rituals that I actually started at the beginning of this year. I got a sketchbook. I mean, I have plenty of sketchbooks, but then I asked for one from Santa / my parents, and
Don't tell
Santa
them
delivered. Yeah, Santa delivered. I like practical presents. So I'm like, if I get a present, I'm going to try and use it because it's from someone and they made an effort to get it for me. So forget that I have no like sketchbooks at home in my room. But yeah, got this new one, a little one. And yeah, and I've started. And again, it's about not judging myself that I haven't done it for a week, or, you know, before I was like, oh, if you don't do it, then what's the point of even picking it up again? So it's about, yeah, being realistic as well, and self-loving about it, and remembering how it makes you feel when you do it.
You've just touched on so many things that I hear from people all the time in terms of like the things that I do for work, which is the need for community as part of the permission given piece to do the creative thing in the first place. Just having a community around you makes it so much more easy to access because you're with people that are all doing the same thing. So there's none of the ego inner critic, like busyness. Oh no, must do this other thing. Like, got to clean the bathroom. I've got to send this email, blah, blah, blah. There's other people there that you can see that are helping you access that. And then I think also really interesting that you said about sketchbooks and that you have many of them, but this one that was given, and again, it's that permission giving thing, isn't it? And the intention. I've been given this now at this moment. And so I have an invitation to do the thing. But actually, if I remember for my birthday 2 years ago, maybe my friend gave me some crayons, and crayons are just like, your inner child is so happy when you see them again. So that was absolutely amazing. And I just got obsessed with using them. And again, I'm sure it's the thing that because somebody gave it to me, it felt really like, here, go, play. Like you just have the unfiltered, adulted permission to just go and do.
Yes. No, you are so right. So yeah, I mean, you know, when I said I don't do it unless I'm with a community, I don't want it to sound like I was being dismissive as well. Like I need to do it on my own, because even the ones that I didn't in theory do with community, like it was permission from you, permission from my parents getting me the sketchbook. So yeah, there's a huge relational element to it.
Those are the stepping stones, aren't they? So it's you start building the confidence within community spaces and invitation from kind of external things. But then gradually it becomes something that is also internally driven, because now you don't need a community, or you don't need somebody to give you a sketchbook. This is like stitched into your way that you live your life. But it's creating that space and also going through the process of, like you said, if I don't do it every day, then what's the point? Or I don't know if you said it every day, but something along these lines. That rigidity and that structure that we place on it as well. We have to move through this phase into the next phase of more fluid approach to our creativity. And then it becomes not just the act of, in your case, maybe painting or writing, but it becomes a whole approach to how you go about your day with curiosity and creativity, and the focus almost of how you kind of zoom into things and react to things.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more where you are at now from when you started?
Yeah, so I think I had multiple false starts. When I was in school, I was doing modern pentathlon and I was competing at a really high level. And I also thought I was going to go to study sports science because that's what everybody did. And I remember when I kind of was given a way out and an opportunity to not have that as my future. And I was like, oh, thank God, yes, I run in this direction and I try something else. And interestingly, one of the first things that I did was to get a sketchbook and wanted to be a tattoo artist because there were these really cool women that lived in my town, I guess. And they were so just fearlessly themselves and so gorgeous in how they went about setting up, because I saw them set up the shop for themselves, you know, build a client base, and then the work that they were doing. And it was all just so badass female energy and fearless and vibrant. And I think that was the moment where I was like, this is where art can take you if you go on this journey. So I got a sketchbook and I started drawing a lot and it was really fun. And then I went to university and started doing creative writing, and I stopped drawing everything altogether, but I was really in the writing world. When I finished university, I kind of stopped writing because I started teaching and then there was just no time for anything. And once I got into my rhythm, I guess, of teaching, I was introduced to a local poetry night, and this like completely relit my spark. And then poetry was my obsession. And then when I moved abroad to Slovenia, I stopped writing poetry because I didn't have my community anymore. And I think also I found the language thing very overwhelming. My brain just kind of, I think, went into absorbing all of the new information. And so it didn't do a lot of generating. And then I wasn't enjoying work and decided that I would start teaching creative writing because I knew that I was really happy doing that. Once I met the poet Laurie Bolger, who every Sunday, I think it is, she has the Creative Writing Breakfast Club. And it's just the most cup-filling, soul-filling, delicious play session ever. And then from here, I started finding lots of literature around creativity. So the book Your Brain on Art was the first one that got me really hooked. But again, everything was in this almost academic system or this specific purpose of what I wanted to achieve. So for a few years, everything with creativity was, how can I make this into a product that can then become a business? Because I really enjoy this work and I know that it makes other people feel good. But there was no space within that question of what can Alice do for herself in order to fill her creative cup and explore and become expansive, like we said before, stitch creativity into everything. That part of my journey really only started at the beginning of this year. I'd finished my healing journey with Charisse Bishram, mind-blowingly amazing, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful human to work with. And I just had this sudden awakening of like, oh my gosh, I'm telling people to be creative and I understand all of the health benefits of it. And I totally get why it changes your life and it improves your well-being and it helps you live happier and longer and it activates your hope center and like all of this amazing stuff that I am not doing for myself. So in January, it was a kind of New Year's resolution thing where it was just like, now is the time where I develop rituals of creativity, where I have time dedicated to it, where it's the center of everything else. It feeds everything else within my business and within my life. And this, again, like you said, went through a period of being rigid and like it has to exist within a time frame and a specific moment. And then gradually has just become something far more fluid and soft. Is actually helping me shed a lot of my old habits in terms of needing to have set answers, control, things to be perfect before they go out. And also I'm somebody that worries about stuff. I think all of us do because the world is scary. My creative practices now definitely help me manage that fear and become more optimistic And to answer that question at the end of my stretching practice of, am I ready to step into my most fun, playful, creative? And I'm like, yes. And it makes me smile every day. I ask myself that question.
Yeah, and I mean, what an amazing journey you've been on, and I feel like we should touch upon the fact that in all of this, in pursuit of the kind of traditional creative activities, we have been creative with our lives as well, right? So it's like, it's almost like you can't separate creativity from living, and anyone who would try and tell you otherwise doesn't really understand the meaning of the word creativity. Boom, I
Yeah.
said it.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to exactly what you said at the beginning, that for you, creativity is freedom. Because if we can give ourselves this space, then you unlock so much of our natural human nature that is suppressed by the need to kind of fit into what society looks like now. I was reading, recently a book called Ikigai, The Secrets to Long Life. And they go to Okinawa in Japan, and they're interviewing a bunch of people there that are over 100. And a few of them are talking about their secret to longevity is that they do karaoke together every week, they dance together every week, and they plant their own vegetables in their garden. How often have I gone out dancing without going to a club or perhaps for a dance lesson? And how many times do I go dance with my community sober? How many times do I sing with my community sober? I have loads of house plants, but like they don't then make anything that I can eat within my home that sustains me. And I think we have always, from the beginning of humanity, made sounds and danced and sung and moved around together in this way. And so I think it is, in a way, a return to our ancestors, but I also think it's an unlocking and a breaking away from a lot of the oppressive systems of capitalism, because it's just like, I don't need the booze. I don't need an hour. I don't need to be good. I don't need to achieve anything. I don't need to have an outcome. Like, this is just me being totally human and me.
Yeah, 100% mic drop.
And then I think this also brings us into this thing of like kind of healing and how we mother ourselves and stuff like this. So maybe you can take us into the next bit, Martyna, thinking about the summer as the mother archetype.
Yeah, so I guess when we were planning this episode, we were thinking about like how creativity links with the summer energy, which is normally the young side of the seasons of the year, but also energetically there's light and shadow to each season. So the young is the light, which is sort of like the active energy, something that is more favored. I kind of draw from menstrual cycle awareness in that, summer as the inner summer as well in menstruality is linked to the mother archetype. And in terms of like the positive side of it is that there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy to give. There's a lot of energy to give to others and to yourself. And how it links with creativity for me is that it's a potent moment to be creative with others, what you just talked about, like let's grow vegetables together, let's go dancing, but also to dedicate that time to those creative rituals or rituals of devotion, as we describe them as, on your own. And, to give yourself, again, links to permission and sort of gentle mothering. When you think about the yang side of the archetype, it is the active energy, and then the yin side is the soothing. But then within that, you also have the shadow side of each of those. So it's almost like you're splitting them, if that makes sense. Like I feel like I'm splitting them even into more parts. So within the active mother, there can be the helicopter parenting type of mother who's just pushing too much and being too out there and trying to do too many things. And I think, summer is an invitation to be creative, but there's also a level of discernment required. And by that, I mean like measuring where your energy is at, how much can you actually give out and how much you should keep for yourself. And that's why I feel like working with this archetype of a mother can be so potent, because when you think about this, mother is not just about servicing others. She's also like, she's got those qualities to like use those skills to apply them to herself. Those skills of just loving, care, and so just directing them inwards, and then creativity can flow in a way without pressure as well. Yeah. How does that land for you, Alice?
Yeah, no, that sounds really good. And I like the word pressure as well.
Mm.
We had spoken before about the doing versus the being, and the creativity helping to overcome perfectionism and things like this. When I am being intentionally creative, I definitely feel that I am mothering myself in this gentle way, and there is a release of pressure. And if I don't have time for this, then I feel it in the tension of my shoulders and how quickly I move from thing to thing in my day, how irritable I can be with my partner or my mum. Like, those are the two that tend to get the most of it from me if everything has gone a bit out of control. And yeah, as part of my healing journey with Charisse Bishram, a big part of it was learning to fill my own cup first and to then let the excess pour over to others. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about here. You have this mother archetype, which is there to be caring and supportive of others, but ultimately you have to do the looking after yourself first. Otherwise, what are you at the end? If we come back to images, you can just imagine if this was a plant that was constantly just giving out and never receiving anything, how that plant would look. It would wither, its leaves would fall off. It wouldn't be able to kind of take in the light and everything that it needs anymore in order to grow. So it's really important actually that we have this self-awareness and this self-care giving.
It's kind of, it all goes with the, put your air mask on first when you're on the plane.
Yeah, in case of an emergency.
In case of an emergency, and we forget. And because summer energetically and just weather-wise has that undertone of pressure, but it's just an invitation, but we make it into a pressure of like do, see, everyone, everything, do all the things. That can be extremely like motivating. And there's a lot to be said about like how that can inspire creativity. You have longer days, you have beautiful weather, that helps. And you get to do it with people maybe a bit more than you would in autumn or winter. But we don't have an unlimited supply of energy. I think is something that I constantly want to return to,
Yes, 100%. Before we recorded this episode, I was saying about how in the summer I used to suffer really badly from FOMO because there's just things going on and people outside and everything is easy. Like, you don't have to think about dressing up for cold weather or like where are you going to go. You just go to a park or an outside space, or everything is so accessible. But then also within this, what do you actually want to do? And how do you feel responding to, FOMO is a fear of missing out. So how are you responding to this fear constantly rather than thinking about what do I actually need? So like this week in my city in Maribor, this is one of the best weeks of the year. So we have this festival called Lent Festival, and there's music, like live music and different events every single day. And I've been going to things every day this week because also a lot of it is free, so it's so easy to access it. And then yesterday I just had this moment where I was like, I need a day to not be around any people. I don't know if it's an age thing or if I always wanted it, but I just didn't know before because I didn't know how to listen to what I wanted. But I love stillness. And this morning, I woke up at 7 and had breakfast with my husband before he left. And then I took my yoga mat to the park and no one was there yet because it was still early. So I did some stretching in the park and a little bit of meditating and journaling and was just under this tree with the sound of birds and nothing else. And I was like, this is what I needed. And it was so delicious to just have that moment of like ultimate slowness and peace. In the summer, I really need both the social creativity, the community, but now I know I also need those moments of stillness as well to just regulate and keep enjoying everything, because otherwise I kind of push myself to the point of over-stimulus, over-socialization, and then it's not fun anymore because I'm just there because I'm scared to not be there.
Yeah, I completely resonate with everything that you said. And that awareness and, making decisions out of place of contentment and safety rather than from fear of missing out. That's always going to bring the most peace, basically. There's a part of me that still has FOMO, or not even a part of me, just me. Every now and then I do have FOMO, especially in the summer. But having been in Poland over the winter, where I had like enforced moments of stillness. I learned a lot about myself in how the stillness sometimes makes me uncomfortable, but it also is so needed. And there were like little blips of like, oh, I wish I was in London right now doing, solo adult things and not living here with my parents in the middle of nowhere. But then the stillness and how much space that created in my mind and for my creativity was just, priceless. It's not something that you can buy.
Yeah. And
You
if you
know?
were going to give that stillness like a texture or a taste or a scent, what is that like for you?
It's that kind of early spring wind, but like in continental Europe, when it's kind of like warm-ish and it envelops you, and you are walking through either a field or you could be walking through a square somewhere in Europe, and it just feels like everything is okay in your world right now.
I love that. Okay, cool. So we are going to start wrapping up our episode. We're going to move into a very short little visualization to help you find, I guess, the textures of what stillness feels like for you and where you can create some more of that. So if you are somewhere that you can sit and close your eyes, then I invite you to do that at this time. But if you're walking along or you're listening kind of as you're doing something, then feel free to keep your eyes open and just listen and kind of breathe and let your mind's eye do the work for you. So to start off with, just wherever you are, I just want you to sense into your body for a second and just feel on one intentional breath where the breath wants to go today and the quality of the breath. So as you breathe in, just noticing if it's deep or shallow, long or short. And as you exhale, just noticing how your body relaxes under the breath. And just take a few nice continuous breaths like this, inviting each inhale and each exhale to become a little bit longer, but also a little bit more gentle than the one before. And with every exhale, really letting your body just sink into this moment of stillness and this moment of nothing to do but be right here. And on the next inhale, we're going to breathe up through our body, through the crown of your head, up to this beautiful white light that is just glistening above you. Breathing in. And as you exhale, you're going to bring that white light down through the crown of your head into your body and into your heart space. And as you exhale, just watching it expand within your heart space. Breathe in up to that white light. Exhale, bringing it into your heart space, into your body. Inhale up to the white light. And this time on the exhale, traveling through your body, through your womb space, your legs, your feet, and all the way down to your golden roots, connecting you to the earth and everything that is natural and living and beating, that we are connected to all the time. And then breathe in up through those golden roots, bringing that light into your heart space again. Watching it dance with the white light of the universe. Exhaling down through the roots. Inhaling, bringing that golden light into your heart space. And on this exhale, I want you to imagine all of that white and golden light growing and expanding in your body until it bursts through you and becomes this amazing orb of light that you're kind of almost swimming and bathing in. And as you breathe in and out now, just watching that golden light of your roots and the white light of the universe just expanding and filling every cell and every part of you. And actually overflowing past you into all of this space around you. this endless energy and potential that you can tap into whenever you need to. And then that golden whitish light is going to swirl into an orb in your mind's eye. And that orb is just going to float in your mind's eye for a second. And then you can reach your hand out through the orb and you're going to feel it all silky and watery and delicious. And as you put your hand in, you realize you can sink straight through the orb until you come out and you find yourself standing in a massive field filled with grass and meadow flowers, and in the distance the odd tree, and in the sky the odd bird floating above you. And I want you to again just sense into your body as you're in this place of stillness and naturalness and calm. And I want you to sense into your roots connecting into the earth in this space. Sense them sinking deeper into the earth, connecting with the water at the core of everything and the heat at the core of everything. And as you stand here sensing your body and connecting with this moment, I just want you to ask yourself a few questions. So to start off with, what does stillness feel like for me? If it had a taste, if it had a texture, if it had a smell, what does stillness feel like for me? And just let the answers slowly come to you. Or there may be no answers, in which case just let your breath carry you through the moment. And then you're going to ask yourself, where does stillness exist in my day? Where does stillness exist in my day? When does stillness feel most alive for me? When does stillness feel most alive for me? And I want you to notice the colors and the textures of that. Is it morning sunlight? Or is it the depths of the evening? And sense around it, where are you? Where is the place where stillness feels alive? Is it outside in nature? Is it your room? Is it a particular notebook or a page or a chair? And then I want you to ask yourself, how can I nurture and give myself more stillness? How can I grow this space where stillness feels alive? And then the final question, am I willing to step into my still era? Am I willing to give myself permission for slowness and creativity and play? Am I willing to step into my still era? Am I willing to give myself permission for stillness and creativity and play? And we're going to take a really nice breath in now. And as we exhale, I want you to make an om sound so that you can just seal these questions, these answers, and the intention for the session. So breathing in and exhale. Om. And then just bring yourself back into your body right now, back into this moment. Gently give your body a little shake or a little wiggle. Wiggle your fingers and toes, move in whatever way feels good and right for you. And when you're ready, Martina's having a little yawn. When you're ready, I invite you to just write down where stillness feels alive for you and how you can bring more stillness and more creativity into your life. And to start off with, like we spoke about earlier, that might be something rigid and controlled, like Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And that's totally fine. Whatever you need at this moment in time to welcome that creativity in is the right thing to go with. And as you continue to practice these rituals and open up that space for stillness and slowness and creativity, you'll find that you are able to flow more within that space. So whatever it needs to be today, write it down, and then you can pop that somewhere where you're going to see it regularly, just as a reminder that this is something that you are moving towards. And then I just invite you to lean into that space, into your ritual of stillness or creativity as often as is possible. And as you do, to just notice how this is making you feel, how this is helping you mother yourself, be gentle with yourself, how this is helping you move through the season of summer, whatever it is, just observing and being curious about this space for you. How are you feeling, Martyna?
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel very relaxed. When you said about the stillness of the morning or like something about deep focus of the evening, I don't remember the exact words, but that was very visual for me. And I'm definitely an evening person for creativity. So looking forward to carving out some space tonight.
Martina's already moving into her evening practice. Beautiful. Well, listeners, thank you so much for tuning into this episode 4, summer season of Inner Landscapes. We're really excited to have you here on this journey. And as always, if there's anything that you want to share after listening to this episode, or if you want some accountability for your still creative intention, then you're very welcome to contact me and Martyna and share anything that comes up after this episode. Is there anything else you would like to close with, my dear friend?
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. And if you are keen to chat about creativity and creative living, just let us. Thanks again for listening to this episode of Inner Landscapes. If you enjoyed the episode and took something from it, we would be very grateful if you gave it a like or even subscribed to our channel. This is really helpful for other people finding our podcast in the future and expanding this community space. If you know somebody that would also benefit from listening to this kind of conversation and stepping a little bit closer to what's going on inside for them, then please do also share this episode with them. Building a community takes these kinds of small, loving actions, and we really appreciate anything that is shared and spread from this little space that we are creating right here. If you've got any questions or you want to get in contact with us about exercises or things that you took away from the episode, then you can find us on Instagram. Alice is at creative_t_breaks, and I am at The Kind Space. Thanks again, and have a lovely rest of your day or night.